Welcome to the Roofing Business Growth Circle, the insider advantage for roofers who want to get found, get calls, and get clients. This week, our special guest is Loren Crawford. He is a modern day mystic. He's a coach. He's an overall good guy, I must say. And he works midlife men. He works with midlife men who find themselves stuck in their careers, challenged by the transition in midlife and seeking fulfillment, but uncertainty as to how they achieve it. Loren has a background in labor relations and decades of metaphysical work. He brings a holistic approach to the men he serves. Welcome, Loren.
Thank you for having me, Jacques.
My pleasure. I see the word, mystic. Can you describe a little bit what that means, or metaphysical work?
Yes, big words. Really, it's about tapping into that inner part of who we are. A lot of our lives are driven by external choices, by the economy, by decisions we've made based on patterns and belief systems. And so sometimes those actually get us stuck and get us trapped in ways of being that aren't always helpful. And that can be in business as well. So what I help us to do is sort of go in and get clear and, dare I say, connect a little bit more with our soul as opposed to our ego.
And how does that, so this definition, how does that fit in? What happened in your life to do what you're doing right now that could empower home repair service people?
Right. So I fell upon the yoga path at some point in my life, and I was into it all for the physical stuff. But then I realized, wow, there's something really powerful in this in terms of the shifts that are going on in my mind. And I was a super angry guy. And so what happened over the years of doing that and studying it and becoming a teacher and training teachers is I learned how to bring stillness into my life, to get past all of that crazy chatter and those patterns, those beliefs, those triggers, so that I could become more cool, calm, and collected. And the output of that is obviously better decisions, more alignment with purpose, and being able to, step into myself more fully and not feel like I'm being pushed, but actually having internal direction, a compass, an internal compass as to where I want to go.
So in this world in 2026 and all the challenges that we have right now in the economy, we focus on home repair service professionals. What do you believe their challenges are right now in their mind with what's happening out there?
Yeah, well, this is it, right? This is a very challenging time for all of us, regardless of the sector. But speaking to your audience in particular, there's a lot of fear that underpins, what's going on in the economy and on the political realm, all of that stuff, right? And so when that fear is motivating us and driving us, we're dysregulated. So we're not making sound and good decisions necessarily. We're reacting rather than taking a breath to respond. And so if we don't have tools and techniques, technologies to help us get out of that pattern of being, which is really forced upon us by external forces, then we're kind of sometimes at a loss. And what I hate to see is people making decisions that aren't perhaps the ones that are going to move them forward with the greatest clarity, because they feel like they have to, right? So it's really about helping people who are in, the roofing sector, for example, to be able to just pause, to be able to understand that, this moment is going to pass, but also about making more sound decisions in terms of how they're moving forward, how they're navigating all of these, challenges that they're facing. The other thing that can be really interesting too is at this juncture, if one of your clients is like in the midlife area, which is the guys that I largely serve, there's often a part of us that's kind of yearning for something more, a little bit more of that. It's not just about having a successful business and making the money. It's about, what is my real purpose here on this planet, right? And when those things are being mixed in with all of the financial pressures and all those other things, it can feel like a real mess. So what we want to do is help people just to feel more grounded, more centered, more calm, so that as they move forward, they are making those decisions from, I would say, let's use the word a higher mind place as opposed to a lower mind reactive place.
And how do you, what type of technology, what type of solutions do you bring?
Well, this is where all of the years of yoga come in handy, and more recently, in the last couple of years, becoming a positive intelligence coach, where we do these little minute techniques which are somatic, they're in the body, right? To break us out of our mental pattern. So we catch ourselves when we're getting into a blah, 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 blah mode, and then we kind of just stop, get into the body, and it could be some breaths, it could be some tactile stuff. We shut that down for a moment, we breathe, and then we move forward from there. Because otherwise, it's a deep, vicious spiral. And the thing about this kind of work is it takes some practice, right? And it takes some guidance, because you can read about it in a book. Maybe you can do an app. But when you have someone who's lived it, embodied it, and knows how to teach and instruct it, that makes the journey so much easier and more efficient. So you can move from point A, reactive, don't know if my business is going to survive, don't know what I'm going to do, to getting over here to like, okay, this is the reality. Here's how I'm going to navigate it. Here's some of the, challenges that I'm going to make, but I'm also going to realize some different ways of exploring those. Because once your mind is more opened up and more clear, you see more possibilities. When you're contracted and feeling stuck and feeling pushed upon, you're going to react in this tight way. And that's where people do kind of make unfortunate decisions that aren't always going to serve them.
And when they want to implement what you teach, how does that work? It's 5 minutes a day, it's 5 minutes every hour. How do you implement that, those technologies, that technique, that approach, that mindset to make it happen? So I guess you're talking about recentering yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple of ways, in as a positive intelligence coach, we have a very foundational bit of work that we do with folks when they're working with us. So that's a process that we take them through. And that's really, it's all about the neurology, creating new neural pathways, right? Because these old pathways, these old grooves are really hardwired. And so what we need to do is every day spending, upwards of 15 minutes just being aware, being in your body, not in your head. And then that's where we start to create these new ways of being in the world, these new ways of seeing things. We move from reactive to responsive, right? We move from, if something triggers you, then once you start doing this work, it's like, oh, okay, that happened. It's not that impulse that we sometimes have. So yeah, it's equipping people with some tools that they can use in the day, throughout the day, as necessary, when the need arises, when they catch themselves in that kind of mode.
And how different is what you're doing right now with, for example, the laws of attraction or setting some manifestations? How different is it from that?
Well, a lot of that's wishful thinking. You can wish all you want to manifest things, but if you've got these neural pathways that are giving you a whole bunch of negative messaging, good luck, is all I'm going to say. It's like, I know manifesting is a big thing out there, but for most of us, it doesn't work because we're not approaching it from that place of again, this changing the neurons, changing how things are firing in the brain. You can only do that by specific practices. You can't will that away by wishful thinking.
I love it. Excellent, excellent positioning. I love it. I love it. So, what do you think is going to happen with this work, with what you're doing and how the technology is progressing? I mean, why do we need you? Can't we just use ChatGPT?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? With AI and a lot of the technology, which I love, I think if you use it well and you use it intelligently, it's a godsend, right? For me as a solopreneur, it's really, really helpful, but it's not human, right? It can't reach you at the heart level. So what a lot of us need to do is kind of drop. Men are really bad at getting stuck in that left hemisphere of the rational thinking, the logical thinking, the analytical thinking, and they don't understand how to get over here to the right brain, really simplifying this, by the way, the right brain, which is more spacious and open and visual. Right? So we get out of the languagey kind of, and we can get into this spacious quality, and that you have to experience. ChatGPT can't tell you how to do that, right? Whereas a human can sense what the person's needs are. Like, I'm highly intuitive. And so not only do I have structures and science-based techniques that I use, but I also work with the energy, right? And that intuitive component is AI can't do that.
So what's the future trend, like what you're offering today? How is that going to change in 5 years?
Yeah, well, hopefully, as more people plug in, I could get into a whole metaphysical discourse about what's going on cosmically right now. There are huge shifts. That's why there's so much chaos, right? But the more of us that are plugging into doing the deeper inner work, the better outcomes we're going to have in the next few years, right? In terms of what that is going to look like in our individual lives and in our businesses and in our overall well-being. So the work that I do does impact all three of those, right? It's about your own, well-being. It's about how you're performing, and it's about your mental, acuity.
And what do you think in this home repair market right now, as things are changing so much and so quickly? What do you think will be their challenges in the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, I think that's it, right? And that's why we want to have as much sort of calm and centered groundedness to be navigating that terrain, because it's the whole economy is shifting so rapidly, and there's going to be a lot of fallout from that. And so if we can come into that place from an exploring, in positive intelligence, we talk about some of this negative stuff as saboteur kind of thinking. And if we can get into the sage kind of thinking, which is really navigating and exploring and innovating. So how do we look at every challenge as like a gift or opportunity? That's the mind that we want to start building, not the reactive, oh my God, the earth, the sky is falling. Yeah, there's real problems. But if we address them from a panicked, triggered place, it's just sort of compounding and layering more upon more. Whereas if you have the skills to kind of go like, okay, spaciousness, what can this look like? How can I move that forward? And I know that can sound very airy-fairy, but once you start working with these techniques, things start to happen. You start to sleep better. Your nervous system starts to move from dysregulation to re-regulation. Your digestion feels better. Like all of these things, it's a multiplier effect. It's holistic, right? What's happening on one area will be impacted in other areas. Just like when the sky is falling and, oh my God, your body gets tight. You start having heart issues. You can't sleep at night. Your digestion's screwed up. So what we want to do is help people to, yes, recognize where a lot of them are at is a super challenging time. But if we look for, external fixes for all of that, i.e. a politician's going to fix it or a certain political party's going to fix it, that's not the solution in my view. It's about how do we work internally to create systems within that impact the external systems. And if more of us are doing that, that's how this whole world and economy is going to change.
Very, very good point. And also, when you're running your business, especially if, the manual type of businesses like the home repair, they have tools and trucks and people and their mind is always, always busy. Working with somebody like you allows them to be recentered. And we all need that. It doesn't matter what type of career you have. I mean, what you're doing right now is a great asset, maybe not in the short term because they have to develop new habits, but in the long term, within a couple of weeks, a couple of months, they will see a difference.
They'll see a difference. Like if they were working with me, for example, and using the tools that I bring to the table, you'll see a difference literally within a matter of weeks, for sure. I've been meditating for 2.5 decades before I found positive intelligence. And it added such a new dimension to that. I was like, holy Dinah. And then you look at some of these internal saboteurs, like mine, for example, is a hyperachiever. So I push and push harder. And that's not a way to live. Like you can't be happy and fulfilled if that voice in you is like, you got to go harder, you got to be doing more, blah, blah, blah. Because that actually is, there's a paradox there that you need to slow down actually to do more. But that has to be a learned and experiential thing, because people get into this whole ideal and those voices in your head will tell you more is more is more. That's what you got to do. But that just winds us up and creates a lot of disunity. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have something to share with the audience where they can find out a little bit more how this approach, how this technique, or some type of assessment where they can find out where they are in this,
Yeah.
in the world they are living with? They can disconnect, do something with you, and exercise, and say, "Oh, I didn't know that I didn't know."
Yeah, for sure. What I would encourage them to do, I'm going to share with you a link directly to a saboteur assessment. And so they'll do that. That's through the Positive Intelligence platform. And then they'll book some time with me to review the outputs of that assessment. And this is where we can really dive in. And this is all something I do, just to help people move along and negotiate. And if people decide, yeah, this is something I want to dive into, then we'll have that discussion. But initially, it's giving them the opportunity to do the assessment, meet with me, go through it, and see like, yeah, this stuff is impacting you, and maybe in ways you can't even really fully appreciate.
And this is a free offer.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, it's about an hour of my time. It's about $350 of value. So,
Wow. Thank you so much. So appreciate that. If to end this conversation, if you had like a couple of words or a sentence or a slogan to recap everything we just said, what would that be?
Well, I think we humans are our own worst enemies sometimes, and we get trapped in patterns and ways of thinking and being that we don't step back and question. We need to. And that's part of my role, is to help people kind of go like, oh, there's a different way, to navigate all of this stuff. And so my invitation to folks, and whether they follow up with me or not, is to just embrace that idea of, how am I thinking? How is it impacting me? What might it look like differently if I wasn't stuck in these certain ways of thinking all the time? Because they're just habits, but they are deep.
Stop, smell the roses, and see things that you didn't know that, or you forgot that were there. And when you recognize those things that you forgot that were there, that can make a whole difference on how we look at the world.
100%.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Loren. On this podcast, your link will be below. You'll be in our section on our website. I think below it says the gift area, and then they can find your link there, or they can click below this podcast. Thanks again for accepting my invitation. I so appreciate your, and specifically your input. It brought a new dimension on how we can be happier and feel more free in our life.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you reached out, and I hope that your audience, the roofers and those associated with that industry who hear this, really take a pause to reflect, because you deserve that.
Excellent. Thank you so much again. And before you go, if you're a roofing contractor or roofing business owner, and today's episode hit close to home, make sure you're subscribed to the Roofing Business Growth Circle podcast, or just check out our YouTube channel. Each week, we share practical strategies to help you grow profits, build better systems, and run a roofing business that doesn't depend on you every day, and give you peace of mind because of Loren. So thank you so much again for listening to this episode, and catch you next week. Bye-bye.